Imagine you just hired a new employee,
Yeah.
right? And they are just incredibly accurate. They're diligent. They literally never sleep. And they only make a mistake, say 0.01% of the time.
Which is, better than most of us.
Right. You'd probably promote them immediately. But what if that employee is actually an autonomous AI agent? And it's out there making thousands of micro decisions every single minute across your company's entire network.
Yeah, the math changes really quickly then.
Exactly.
Oh.
Suddenly, that tiny fraction of an error rate, it essentially guarantees a catastrophic multi-million-dollar mistake by, like, lunchtime.
Yeah.
So today, we are talking about why executives are just blindly walking into this mathematical trap and, how they can actually pull themselves out.
It's a trap that is playing out across the entire corporate world right now as we speak. Because you have these leaders and they're seeing these incredible capabilities in a lab setting, and they just assume that, deploying them into a live, messy business environment is just a matter of flipping a switch.
And look, whether you are prepping to pitch this massive new software tool to your boss this afternoon, or maybe you're just trying to keep your head above water with all the, the tech trends flying around right now, you're probably hearing about enterprise AI absolutely everywhere.
Oh, yeah. It's inescapable.
But then you look at the actual boots-on-the-ground corporate rollout of this stuff, and it feels incredibly clunky. I mean, it just feels really slow.
Which honestly brings us to the core of our deep dive today. We are unpacking an executive briefing series from early 2026, and this is authored by Tunde Kahinda and Cyril Simone.
Right.
We're looking specifically at their March 2026 board briefing, along with a companion paper they wrote in February that details exactly why AI strategies are failing. So our mission here is to decode what they call the bottleneck paradox of AI.
The bottleneck paradox. I love that term.
It's great, right? We are going to figure out why companies are basically throwing billions of dollars at generative models, but not really seeing a return on investment, and how they can actually govern this technology before just letting it run totally wild.
Yeah, and the authors, they give us this fantastic, incredibly blunt quote right at the start of the briefing. They say, "The bottleneck is never the bot. The AI agents are ready. Most organizations aren't."
That really sets the tone.
Right. So despite these massive capital injections into this space over the last, 3 years leading up to early 2026, organizational readiness has essentially just flatlined.
Yeah, because the biggest trap we are seeing, and the sources are very clear on this, is executives treating AI like a standard software procurement.
Oh, like just buying a new app or something.
Exactly. They think it is just like buying a new word processor or a standard SaaS product like buying a Copilot license. You pay the per-seat subscription fee, you turn it on, and you just sort of assume your workforce instantly gets 20% faster.
Right.
But the briefings are adamant about this. AI is... it's not a tooling purchase. It is a fundamental shift in your entire operating model.
Okay, let's unpack this because treating an autonomous AI agent like a simple software subscription, it's kind of like, it's like buying a Formula One engine and dropping it into a 1998 Honda Civic, right? But you don't upgrade the brakes or the steering at all.
Yeah, the wheels are just going to fly right off.
Exactly. The intelligence is obviously there in the engine, but the translation layer, which is the actual infrastructure of the business itself, completely bottlenecks the action. So if leaders aren't treating this as an operating model shift, what exactly are they doing when they sign these massive checks?
What's fascinating here is that they're basically just funding a technology trend based on like an innovation slogan.
The slogan, wow.
Yeah, they just want to be able to tell their shareholders, hey, we do AI now. But they're totally failing to do the unglamorous, really difficult work up front. To actually succeed with this technology, the briefings make it super clear that you have to set firm, measurable business outcomes first.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Well, you aren't just buying AI to, quote unquote, be faster. You are buying it to improve cycle time by a specific percentage or, to reduce the cost to serve in a really specific department.
Got it.
And even more importantly, you have to define the boundaries that must absolutely never be compromised. Things like data privacy, regulatory compliance, or just brand trust.
But, I mean, defining a boundary and actually enforcing it, those are two very different things, right? Mm-hmm. How does a massive enterprise actually enforce a boundary on a system that is inherently designed to be generative and, somewhat unpredictable.
It requires a really strict separation of duties, which honestly is a massive cultural shift for a lot of tech teams.
How so?
You need a hard, impenetrable line between the engineering teams who are building and configuring these AI agents and the governance teams who are evaluating and approving them.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, if the developer building the bot is literally the exact same person signing off on its safety and releasing it into production, you do not have an operating model. You have a massive organizational blind spot.
But you can't just build those governance teams and that rigorous oversight overnight, right? No,
Yeah.
you have to build that organizational muscle gradually. And the authors suggest doing this by climbing a very strict maturity ladder rather than just, like, trying to install an autonomous agent on day one.
Exactly. You can't skip steps. The briefings lay out 6 distinct levels of AI maturity. It is a progression, and you really have to respect the friction between these levels. So you start at level 0, which is the baseline we all already know, manual, rule-based logic.
Like an employee manually processing an invoice using a spreadsheet.
Spot on. Then you move to level 1, which they call predict. This is your traditional machine learning. So the system might flag an anomaly on that invoice, but a human being retains absolutely all the decision rights to actually act on it.
So the human is still very firmly driving the car at level 1.
Right. Then level 2 is generate. These are the co-pilots that are literally everywhere right now.
Wow.
The AI can draft an email to the vendor about that invoice anomaly, or it can, summarize a massive 50-page contract. But crucially, it does not touch your system of record.
Okay, so it cannot change the database itself.
Exactly. It's a highly capable assistant, but it does not have the keys to the company vault. And level 2 seems to be where the vast majority of organizations are currently stuck today.
And they're stuck because level 3 is ACT,
Yeah.
right, which is a massive paradigm shift. At level 3, we enter the realm of actual agents.
Yes.
The AI uses tools and executes actions across your CRM or your ERP software. It can actually go into the billing system and change the invoice, though still with implicit human approval at this stage.
Right. The human is still the final gate.
And then finally, you have levels 4 and 5, which move into limited self-learning and controlled self-modification. So at these top levels, the AI updates its own behavior through heavily gated release pipelines without a human holding its hand every single step of the way.
Which is an incredible leap in capability.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the sources talk about this ultimate peril called the leap. This is this really dangerous temptation to jump straight from level 2, the smart assistant drafting your emails directly to level 3, the autonomous agent updating your databases, but without having a control ecosystem in place.
Right, skipping the foundational work.
But wait, let me push back on this a bit. Because the briefings also mention that frontier models, like OpenAI's GPT 5.4, are getting drastically smarter and more capable by the month.
Sure.
If the underlying models are getting that intelligent, doesn't the AI just get safer by itself? Like, why can't we just trust a much smarter model to safely make the leap and figure out the nuances of our business?
It is a completely logical assumption, but the authors explicitly shoot it down.
Really?
Yeah. A more capable model does not automatically make the enterprise use case safer. In fact, it's basically the exact opposite. Better performance actually increases the danger.
Wait, how does that work? Why would a smarter model be more dangerous?
Because of human psychology. When an AI generates incredibly high quality, articulate, and, seemingly flawless outputs, business users are just far more likely to blindly trust it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The results look so credible that humans just drop their guard. And when they drop their guard, they start plugging these highly capable systems directly into live production workflows.
Without checking the work.
Exactly. They give the AI access to tools and databases without oversight simply because, well, it hasn't made a typo in 6 months. So better performance actually increases what the authors call the blast radius because the system is given unrestricted power based on this completely false sense of...
And that concept leads perfectly back to that terrifying mathematical reality we touched on at the very beginning of the show.
Right, the 0.01%.
Yeah. What actually happens when a company attempts the leap and it fails?
The math here is genuinely sobering. Scaling AI without governance isn't just risky, it is a mathematical certainty for disaster. Let's look at the specific numbers from the sources. Say you deploy an autonomous agent, and it is incredibly accurate. Like we said, it has a tiny 0.01% error rate per action.
Which, again, Sounds phenomenal. I mean, most human employees make way more mistakes than that on a Tuesday morning before coffee.
They absolutely do. But humans work sequentially, right? AI operates at a scale and speed that is almost difficult to conceptualize. So if that agent is making thousands of micro decisions, database queries, and API calls a day, the math catches up instantly.
Because of the sheer volume.
Exactly. With a 0.01% error rate, there is roughly a 63% chance of a material significant incident occurring within its first 10,000 actions.
Wow.
And an enterprise agent deployed across a busy customer service department. It can hit 10,000 actions in a matter of days, if not hours.
So what does this all mean? I mean, it's like letting a toddler loose behind the counter at a bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if they only press the wrong button 0.01% of the time, eventually they're going to wire $10 million to the wrong account. We desperately need a way to stop the machine when that error happens. We need that kill switch.
We absolutely do. And to get that kill switch, the authors mandate that your entire AI architecture must be bifurcated. It has to be split into two very distinct halves.
Okay.
You have the data plane, which is all the fun stuff, the large language models, the data retrieval, the prompt engineering. But that data plane is completely useless and functionally dangerous without the control plane.
Which is the governance side. But what does a control plane actually look like in practice? Because the authors are very specific that before a board should ever approve moving to level 3 agents, they must demand a minimum control package.
It is non-negotiable. First, you need an agent registry. You have to centrally track what these bots are even allowed to do, who owns them, and what systems they touch.
Right.
Second, you need an evaluation harness.
Okay, what does that actually mean for the engineers building this stuff?
It means continuous adversarial testing. So imagine you have deployed a customer service agent. Adversarial testing means you literally build a second, completely separate AI system whose entire job is to aggressively interrogate the first one.
Oh, like a sparring partner.
Exactly. It actively tries to trick your customer service bot into offering a 90% discount or, revealing another customer's private data. You are constantly sparring with your own systems in a closed sandbox before the public ever interacts with them.
That makes total sense. You are automating the stress test itself.
Precisely. Then third, you need tamper-evident audit logs. Because generative AI can hallucinate its own reasoning, you need an immutable record of exactly what data the model looked at before it made a decision, just so you can forensically reconstruct a failure if you need to.
Right, a paper trail.
And finally, exactly as you said, you need an incident response playbook with a hard kill switch to physically sever the agent's access to your systems the moment it drifts from its instructions.
And even with all of those controls in place, the sources are really specific about where you should even let these agents operate in the first place. Like, you don't just unleash them on your most critical workflows.
No, you have to be highly strategic. Bad candidates for your early AI agents. Anything that moves money, changes pricing, approves credit, or makes legal commitments.
Just too risky.
The risk is simply too high while you are still building your control plane. Good candidates are highly structured, reversible tasks. Things like service desk runbook execution, where the AI is just categorizing IT tickets, or maybe basic intake triage.
Which all underscores a golden rule for corporate boards that the authors really highlight. Autonomy should only ever be increased after the prior level proves measurable business value and passes all the strict control gates.
Exactly.
You don't just get to graduate to an autonomous agent just because your vendor released a cool new software update.
No, you have to earn the right to automate through sheer operational discipline.
But building this massive control plane with the evaluation harnesses, the adversarial testing, immutable audit logs, and kill switches, that sounds incredibly expensive. How are companies even budgeting for this kind of infrastructure, especially when they think they're just buying a simple software license?
This is where we hit the hidden iceberg of enterprise AI economics. Most executives, they're used to traditional software as a service logic.
Right, the per-seat model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have 1,000 employees, you buy 1,000 licenses at $50 a pop, and boom, you know your exact IT budget for the year. But AI does not follow per-seat logic.
So how does the cost structure actually work then?
You really have to look at the entire architecture stack. So above the waterline, the part you can easily see, are your inference costs. This is the literal computing cost of querying the model.
Okay.
And those costs are highly volatile. The briefing's one that you have to budget for a 2 to 3x variance during your ramp-up phase because humans interact with AI completely unpredictably.
How so?
Well, one employee might ask the AI to write a simple one-sentence email, right? And another might ask it to summarize a 400-page PDF. The token usage fluctuates wildly from day to day. But below the waterline, that is where the hidden infrastructure costs just explode.
What are we actually paying for down there below the waterline?
You are paying for vector databases, which act as the AI's long-term corporate memory so it doesn't forget your proprietary data between prompts. You are paying for tool gateways, which basically act as the security bouncers standing between the AI and your actual customer databases.
Right.
You are paying for monitoring telemetry. But the absolute biggest hidden expense, and the one that surprises executives the most, is people.
People. Wow, that is the great irony here, isn't it?
It really is. To manage higher maturity levels safely, you need highly specialized personnel. You need on-call runtime engineers to monitor the agents. You need evaluation specialists to run those adversarial tests we just talked about. You need governance leads to interpret the audit logs.
And beyond the people, there are massive switching costs, right? Because evaluating an AI vendor isn't just picking an app. The authors call it a stack decision. You are choosing a foundation model, an orchestration layer to route the tasks, and a retrieval layer to fetch your data.
Which makes vendor lock-in a massive, massive existential risk. Boards have to start asking vendors incredibly hard questions.
Yeah, like what?
Like, can we export our audit logs in a standard format? How are access permissions handled across the stack? And most importantly, portability. If OpenAI or Anthropic raises their prices next year and we want to change our model provider, how much of our custom application logic completely breaks?
Let me push back on this ROI equation for a second, because everyone right now is so hyper-focused on the cost per token of the AI. But if a company has to go out and hire an entire team of highly paid engineers, evaluation specialists, and governance leads just to babysit the AI and run the control plane, isn't that massive people cost going to totally wipe out the labor savings the AI was supposed to create in the first place?
This raises an important question, and it is a trap that a lot of CFOs fall into. The authors clarified that the business case for enterprise AI should not actually be about labor elimination.
Oh, so it's not about firing people to save money.
No, not at all. It is about operating leverage. It is about achieving vastly faster cycle times, broader coverage, and improved quality.
Yeah.
If the AI, supported by that team of engineers, allows your existing customer service team to process 10 times the volume of requests with half the error rate, that is massive value. Therefore, cost must be measured as cost per outcome, like the cost per resolved case or the cost per process workflow, not the token price or the headcount reduction.
Okay, so we have the strict controls in place, we understand the hidden infrastructure costs, but when something inevitably breaks, when that 0.01% error happens and the system hallucinates, who actually owns the mess?
Ownership is exactly where these programs quietly fail, because right now, everyone just points fingers.
Typical corporate behavior.
Exactly. The AI vendor certainly doesn't own your business outcome. They just sold you the raw intelligence. The business side can't own it alone because they don't understand how a vector database works or, how to configure a tool gateway.
Right.
But the IT department can't own it alone either because they don't dictate the nuances of a supply chain contract or how the daily workflows operate on the floor.
So how do you actually structure the accountability?
The sources argue it must be a shared model with hard, explicit lines of accountability. The business side owns the outcomes and the workflow redesign. Technology owns the platform architecture, the integration, and the security. And Lin and compliance own the policy interpretation.
So everyone has a seat at the table.
Exactly. Every single scaled use case in a company needs one named business owner and one named tech owner. If it doesn't have actual names attached to it, it simply shouldn't be funded.
But the political reality of the workplace is messy, right? I mean, people are terrified of role changes. They resist new measurement metrics. They want the shiny new toy, but they don't want the discipline that comes with it. So if the CEO just signs a massive check for an AI platform, but doesn't actually step into the trenches to enforce the workflow redesign, this whole thing just becomes an incredibly expensive vanity project, right?
Yeah. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you are absolutely spot on. The authors call this executive air cover, and it is crucial because vendors love to market AI as a plug-and-play solution. But the enterprise reality is what the authors call a 4 to 6 year transformation gap.
4 to 6 years.
Right.
Wow, that is an eternity in tech time. Why does it take that long?
Because you don't just plug an LLM into your company and say, go. It takes 6 months just to get your department heads to agree on what constitutes a safe response. It takes another year to build the secure sandbox so your proprietary data doesn't leak back to the vendor. And it might take 2 years just to clean your own internal data so the AI isn't learning from, outdated 2018 HR manuals and defunct product catalogs.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. Furthermore, the regulatory pressures are mounting rapidly. The briefings note that NIST launched its AI Agent Standards Initiative in February 2026, and the European Union's AI Act timeline is now operationally near, meaning data inventory, system logging, and risk classification have to be an immediate priority, not a future problem.
So leadership really can't just be a cheerleader from the sidelines on this.
No. Without visible, forceful executive backing to enforce the operating model, especially when different departments disagree over data ownership, AI adoption just fractures into risky, localized experimentation. Leaders have to protect a 6 to 12-month learning period for their teams to fail, iterate, and build that foundational control plane without demanding immediate financial returns.
So bringing this all back to you, whether you are actively assessing AI tools to implement in your own department, or you're just trying to stay well-informed so you don't get swept away by the hype, you now have the playbook. You know that true, durable AI adoption is a massive structural overhaul. It is not just a software download.
Definitely not.
Next time you are sitting in a meeting and someone pitches a shiny new AI copilot or autonomous agent, you know exactly what to ask. Where is the kill switch? And whose name is on the outcome?
Because if they cannot answer those two fundamental questions, your organization simply is not ready for the technology.
Exactly. But before we wrap up, we want to leave you with a final, somewhat mind-bending statistic from these sources that we haven't even touched on yet. We've spent all this time talking about futuristic AI agents, adversarial testing, and advanced governance planes. But technical debt is the ultimate anchor holding all of this back.
Oh, absolutely.
The authors note that as of late 2024, 63% of SAP ECC customers had still not migrated to the foundational cloud systems like S/4HANA, which are the absolute prerequisites needed to even run these new AI features.
63%. It is a staggering reality check.
So I want you to ponder this. Before we spend all our time worrying about autonomous AI agents taking over the corporate world, we have to ask, are our core businesses still running on legacy tech from a decade ago? You simply cannot put a cutting-edge AI layer on a digital house that hasn't even been built yet. Let that sink in.